Good day, podcast community. Pete Kane here. Podcast Pete is what some people call me, but we have a special guest. We attended our 50th high school reunion. And I tell you what's really weird. I've told a few people this. When you don't have contact with somebody for 50 years, what do you say? Like, what have you been up to for the last 50 years? And that's what Jay and I did. It was like, I even called him by the wrong name because if somebody told me, like at the day before, like they were pointing, and I'm trying to identify people because I've been gone for 40 years and I don't know people like some people locally and whatever it is. But I geeked out on your journey, and I thank you for being a guest on. So tell our viewers before, they didn't have our conversation at the reunion, who you are, what you do, and who you serve. And then we're going to kind of get into the podcast.
Sure. I was born in Richmond, Virginia. Obviously, that's where we're both based originally from. I'm a junior, which is why I'm called Jay. I'm glad they didn't call me Junior. And I grew up in the Stratford Hills area of Richmond, went to Benedictine High School for 3 years because I got out of public school that way. And went from there to college for a couple of years, took a year off. It's really hard to know at 18 what you want to do for the rest of your life.
Totally.
So I originally studied at VCU, mass communications, but I wasn't really geared towards journalism at that point. I was more interested in the technology of audio and video because I've been working with my younger brother Mike was in several bands, so I got into doing sound and lights and stuff. So I went to VCU in Richmond for mass communication. Went to American University in DC for audio technology, which I didn't complete, and then I just went to work. I did worked for a company called Backstage for a while, and then I got a job doing audio and video production, which took me up and down the East Coast primarily. Got to go to England for a conference, and then that was all very exciting.
Where do you say, Jay, like when we were talking about the health part of your journey,
right?
At what point in your journey did you start making it a priority, and did you and why did you see the value in that focus that you've had for the last bunch of years?
So after being involved in audio and video production, I kind of hit bottom. I was suicidal, and so I started getting help. 12-step programs, therapy, and the thing that really resonated with me was the adult children of alcoholics, because my father was an alcoholic. And so that really opened up a whole new world for me. Sort of working on stuff myself. I became a workshop junkie, going to California several times for like week-long intensives. And, I think I made some good progress along those ways. I think it really helped me establish some priorities, like self-discovery, versus, there's kind of a choice I think we are able to make along the way
Yep.
of either embracing growth or escape. And my father, I mean, God bless him for getting through, but being an alcoholic is not the best way to get through life. Although it's the most prevalent, alcohol is, I think, the most prevalent coping mechanism that people have, because we don't come with a manual of like, here are your feelings. So if we don't know how to feel and express our feelings, it's common to numb out, and disassociate. So at some point, I got into men's work. The work of Robert Bly and Joseph Campbell really was a light bulbs for me. I ended up going back to school for religious studies, not in a kind of religious way, but because I was curious about spirituality. And so, so I began going to men's groups, which I think of as a way for men to establish emotional literacy. I remember sitting in a therapy group with a bunch of guys, and the facilitator would say, well, how do you feel about that? Somebody talking about their life events. And everybody's head would turn and look at the wall where there was a chart of feelings, like the 5 primary feelings and little offshoots of, so that was how, much we were out of touch with our own feelings. That was a real eye-opening moment of just figuring out what we were feeling, because I think most of us were quite numb. I was in a facility that was geared towards substance abuse, and I was released early because I didn't have one substance that I was like addicted to, but as a phrase I learned out of the 12-step program is like, it's people, places, and things that we use to escape from our reality. It could be alcohol, it could be shopping, it could be sex. There's lots of ways to distract ourselves from what's going on inside. So I've pursued that quite a bit. I'm still part of, there's a group called the Mankind Project that is international now. It started out in the Midwest back in the 80s, and is, helping men, kind of stands for integrity, accountability, and honesty, which are not qualities that we have a lot of great examples of in our society. Right now, just look at the news. I mean, holy cow. I think empathy is a really important, human characteristic. And especially, it's a red flag to me if somebody doesn't have empathy, because that can be very dangerous.
Let me ask, because I have a similar journey that I didn't know this until you were sharing with our viewers. I was in a lot of dark spots many times, many times, suicidal, looking for help, but I didn't know where to look, and I didn't want to go through the traditional channels of psychotherapy. So I went to other things, and it wasn't the good choices, but it just kept spiraling me. I don't drink now. And I too had more than two, but these two times that I connected with men's groups was absolutely life-saving for me because I was at the lowest point of lows. And my ideology, my mindset was in the trash. And I now have coping skills. I know how to grow. I know how to manage better, but I didn't then. And it
Right.
took me some. And so I always, when I finally woke up, which was after my stroke, 49 days I had to think. And that's the first time I really thought some of the things like life, what's going to be like? And I started working on myself. And it came to personal growth. It came to just learning those. I didn't even know what the word boundaries meant. I had no
Right.
idea. I just like
Same.
it was like boundaries. What's that? You know, because I
Why do
never.
I, yeah. Why
And
do I need boundaries if I really love somebody?
yeah, and I was a yes person. Yes, oh yeah, just to avoid the conflict, and it just doesn't get you anywhere because you got to learn these basic skills. So, what would you say? Because I want to obviously shine light for guys because we are guys and we think we got it all figured out. We're tough. And like you said, when they said, well, how do you feel about it? I can see people looking around like nobody wants to tell you how they feel because if you do, you're being more transparent. You're opening yourself up to an area that we don't like to go down. We like to
Well,
hold our feelings in, but they
well,
take us down.
yeah,
So, oh,
vulnerability.
yeah, exactly. Because it's like, hey, we're tough, we're guys, but we ain't as tough as we think. Because
Yeah,
it
yeah.
does take us to a point. So, now that you look at your life backwards, I don't like to live in the past, but I learned from the past. I like to look forward. So, what would you say to people? Because, we went to our 50th high school. Some of us didn't take care of ourselves as much as others. And it's very apparent when you're around a crowd of 150 people or whatever. So, at what point did you feel in your journey that you started to like get some momentum, get some better skills, better habits? Was that like anytime you can share with our viewers that I don't want to say turn the corner because we never turn the corner. We're
Right.
always growing. But when did you think that you had a better handle on handling the basic skills of living a good life,
Right.
better life?
It's an ongoing process. I like the analogy of peeling away the layers of the onion.
Yeah.
Uh, gosh. Well, yeah. I mean, there's several times when I thought I had it figured out. I've been married twice, and in hindsight, I now realize that one of the things that didn't work in relationship was that well, it was just in the last year that I realized that I'm uh, somewhat autistic, high functioning.
Mhm.
Uh, so I'm smart enough to have gotten through, um, and I was also diagnosed with ADD 2 years ago. So I didn't know any of that my whole life until I was 67.
Wow. Wow.
So realizing those, I'm able to go back and go, oh my gosh, now I understand why certain things happened, like marriages that didn't work, um, uh, and jobs that didn't work, all sorts of. It just shed a light on my whole life. So now I'm at a place where I'm actively working on myself still. I'm I have a therapist. I have a men's group. I do a Buddhist meditation group weekly,
Mm-hmm.
and that the Buddhist approach, um, well, life is suffering is a key tenet. It's like, does not pretend that we shouldn't have suffering.
Mm-hmm.
Suffering comes from attachment. So I'm going, oh, well, yeah, I'd hate to lose all my stuff, but bottom line is the stuff is not as important. Um, so that's kind of where I'm at now. I had an experience just this past March of it was a weekend of psychedelic assisted therapy with,
Mm-hmm.
with psilocybin, and I was able to kind of shed a whole load of grief and anger that it's not like I was intentionally holding on to it, but it was there, and it was amazing to like feel freed up, and that was really great. I mean, I just thinking about. I hadn't really realized how much there was because both my parents have died in the last 25 years. My brother, one of three brothers, passed away. Two divorces, job struggles, minor traumas, major traumas. So I think it's really worth working to expand our consciousness
Yeah.
rather than the other path is that numbing out, finding things that get us out of our feelings because that can be overwhelming. And I
Yeah.
know I've been through several things that were so overwhelming, like with grief, that I shut down and
Mm-hmm.
I became disassociated.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not being fully alive, in my opinion. I
Mm-hmm.
want to be fully alive and embrace things and
Right.
feel all the feelings, and even the ones that I would choose not to feel. It's
Yeah.
important to actually feel them and not stuff them because they'll
That's a
come sideways. Yeah.
Mhm. I love that. I love the feeling and versus stuffing it. And I put it on the screen. I meant to say this before we started, but these are four of the top 10 human drivers and aliveness, connection, meaningful purpose, and personal growth. What would you say if you had to look at these four? What did you get the most like life from when you're because we all have them. It's not, and our guys are the ones that bury our feelings and we want to stuff them versus the best thing to do is not stuff them because you can't get aliveness. What would you say to these four? Is there any one of them that sticks out to you that you could share with our viewers that has been in your journey that's been helpful?
Therapy. I've
Okay.
had some excellent therapists. Uh, the guy I'm seeing now uses EMDR therapy, which uh, about a year and a half ago, I was I started feeling. I mean, I'm in my men's group. I'm working on things, but I'm feeling kind of stuck, and I'm not sure how. So it's something that it's kind of too big for me to see. And I did the EMDR therapy, and what came up was the disassociation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I went through a really nasty divorce like 8 years ago, just really traumatic, dealing with somebody who was having a psychotic break. And so I, that was horrible. And
Hmm.
so I definitely shut down because the grief was so much. It was overwhelming. You know, PTSD, complex PTSD, is what I was diagnosed with.
Hmm.
So, um, yeah, getting out of that took some time. Um, I was so traumatized that for a while, um, I couldn't remember the word disassociate, which is kind of ironic.
Yeah.
Uh, but I had to actually uh, put the word in my phone so I could look it up
Hmm.
to remind myself. Because what is that word? Disassociate. I don't want to be disassociated. I want to be fully alive and feeling. Um, and of course, that grief was kind of too much at the time, and so like 6 or 7 years later, it was, I think, the right time to like get in touch with or yeah, get in touch with my feelings.
Yeah. Let me see if I can make this. Nope, I can't do it. I thought I could. Okay, let me go back. Okay. So I had a guy on my podcast that this is about 6 months ago. He grew up in a concentration camp in Russia at age 5. So
Wow.
it's kind of like not your average 5-year old's upbringing. So he had a lot of trauma, adversity in the early part of your life, which those are your formative days that you're getting some different behaviors and stuff. But he said something that I'd never heard before. He said PTSD, and he said drop the D and put G for growth. And he said what he found
Oh, right.
is that absolutely that trauma of growing up in a concentration camp enabled him to grow at a faster pace than others. And if you looked at his background, because I looked him up a little bit before the podcast, but after it, I mean, this guy is like an accomplished musician, doing all kinds of crazy good things. He's got schools in different countries. He's just pouring back and serving and on a level that you can't believe that a person at age 5, I was in kindergarten, just
Right.
playing in a sandbox and it was safe, but he wasn't. But do you feel like, because I went through a divorce, I've had suicidal suicidal thoughts more
Right.
times than I have fingers on my hands. And I
Yeah.
struggled because I did when I it took me a little longer to get out of Benedictine than you. I went to summer school. So I get out, I go to Virginia Tech, I fail twice. I go 2 quarters, I'm terrible grades, and I say, well, let me go back again and change the environment. I want to go back into an apartment where maybe I can focus better. Well, it didn't work out. It was just so miserable. I go my grade. I got out before they kicked me out. But anyway, so I went and my parents got me tested and they found dyslexia and ADD. Now, I didn't know what the heck those meant. So I went through the next 40 years not realizing how I learned what my patterns were like, and that's where I struggled because you're right. The ADD, I call it the active brain, but if you put an active brain with and my partner's borderline autistic, so I know for the last 8 years dealing with them, it's different thinking. It's just it's a he's high spectrum, and so I know his behavior, his emotions, and his habits better than most. I guess my point is like I love that you said that you are getting that life is a lot of suffering, adversity, whatever you want to say. So I meditate twice, 3 times, 4 times a day. I was at the gym this morning and I meditate on the bike, because I'm trying to do everything I can to calm the brain down and
Hmm.
to get focused and get in touch with my feelings. So what would you say, because we're about the same age, what do you see the future like? What would you, if you could paint the most beautiful picture of J Tubb in the future, what would that picture look like, and what would you be doing?
Well, yeah, that's a great question. I'd say, number one, the the horrible experiences have been really uh, beneficial. What did I write? I also write poetry, and I wrote this short thing of I am grateful for my experience and the growth it brought me. I did not enjoy it.
Yeah.
So that's, but uh, I have learned what boundaries are and why they're important. I've learned not to be dependent on other people's validation. I stand firmly in my own power now. And that's a really great feeling. I
Mm-hmm.
want to keep that going
Mm-hmm.
for the rest of my life. I'm aiming for 100, and sharing my experience, like right now, is I think something I love, and I'm approaching retirement.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of thinking 70, but we'll see what happens. Uh, yeah, I intend to follow podcasting because I've been I've had radio shows, college radio,
Mm-hmm.
for the last 50 years. Actually, when I left Benedictine, I went to Belmont Abbey College and got on the radio there.
Really? Oh
Yeah,
man, I
yeah,
didn't do that because I went senior year. Father Adrian invited a handful of people down to Belmont Abbey, and I
right.
went down there at Easter, and that was a different experience.
Yeah, yeah. It was pretty wild. I think
Yeah,
half the school was from Jersey, so that
yeah,
was an interesting mix of cultures.
yeah, and that's what does make it interesting. I love it that we have the opportunity to reflect on life. And if I hadn't had my stroke 3.5 years ago and had 49 days to think, I wouldn't be where I am today. And I am so grateful because people will say, "Oh, I'm sorry you had a stroke." I said, "Hey, it's a matter of perspective." Well, I'm not
Right,
sorry because I slowed down and I got in touch with myself to the point that I wanted to do things differently. I wanted to live my life with feelings, because I think that is such a profound thing for our listeners to connect with. Us guys, we have feelings. We
yeah,
can't bury them. We can't cover them up. We have to have a way that they get out. And to your point about, you just said you like podcasting. My therapy was podcasting. I I get to learn every podcast. And we had a good conversation at the reunion, but
yeah.
we just went like surface stuff because it was 50 years. We're kind of like, we don't cover 50 years in 8
In five
minutes.
minutes, yeah, right.
Yeah. But what I do, a half hour with every guest, is therapy for me. I journal and I meditate, and when I'm journaling, I'm writing the lessons I learned from my podcast from the previous day, what I'm looking forward to, what I can, so because I get these thoughts, I got to get things out of my head
Right.
because we get between 12 and 60,000 thoughts that go through our head. It's no wonder that people like us go into dark places, because if we don't learn how to be in touch with our feelings, it'll absolutely own us,
Oh
because
yeah,
we replay everything in the past and we don't even know it when we're doing it. Because
Well,
all
yeah,
our mistakes, like I had something I buried for 40 some years. And until my stroke, I never told anybody, even my men's groups. So the therapy of getting something out is freeing. It is an incredible feeling. So I could geek out for hours with on our stuff. So I want our viewers to be able to reach out to you because I really truly feel life gives us lessons. And a lot of us learn them later in life, some of them earlier in life. And we have a program for youth because we're about to see the biggest change in our world. And it's coming up, and it's like a freight train ready to hit every single person. It's AI. It's going to flip the world upside down. So I just want to put this up on the screen because I sometimes forget. We have a program for youth where we put youth with people like yourself that have life experiences. Life teaches us lessons. And if you're 18, you haven't lived life, but you got to
right,
figure it out. And if you have a voice to talk with, so we give them 12 sessions, digital session. These are high performance from high performance habits. It's, it starts with focal points, clarity, energy, and it goes on through 12 weeks. So I want our younger people under 30, if they go to pkane.me/youth, you can get the course for free. Just use the word podcast. It'll waive the $297. Then once you're halfway through it, we put you in groups of 20 because the journey is not by yourself. If you think you're going to do this journey by yourself, you're going to find out, like Jay and myself, it ain't
right.
going to work because together you're better, and you're better around people that have lived life and can answer your questions when you say, what happens when I come across this? And you can learn from people's wisdom, and the older people can learn from the younger because they got technology figured out, man. They grow up with technology.
Right.
So that's just my one plug for our youth, to help our youth, because I believe, like you said, serving and helping people, giving back, it fills our heart, when we have that meaningful purpose in there. So tell our viewers, how can they connect with you? How can they get a hold of you for our audio listeners?
Well, I'm on Facebook a lot, so that's a really great place to reach out to me. I mean, I've got email, but I get like so much email, personal and work email. It's really hard to wade through it on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
So if you send me a message on Facebook, it's guaranteed that I'll see it
Awesome.
the same day.
Well, good. That is awesome. As we wind down, oops, let me get this one thing on there. Okay. I like to say, like, what is the one thing you would want our viewers to take home from our podcast? But could you tie it to one of these four? What would you want of these four human drivers you would want our viewers to take home from listening to your story, your journey?
There are lots of people out there that will help you. And connecting and being part of community is essential for being fully alive.
Wow, man. That's what you call a short video of insight. And we will make sure you if reach out to Jay. You just have to search him. Facebook comes up very high, so you can find him. But you want people like Jay to give you what he just shared. So Jay, I want to thank you for being a guest on the podcast and for being transparent in your journey. It helps others to know we don't have to bury it. We
That's
can
right.
there's help out there. There's community out there. There's people out there that can assist you in your journey if you're struggling. So thank you so much, Jay, for being our guest